Welcome once again to a series of conversation on dyslexia and brain training. My name is Ben Aripo from the Dyslexia Foundation and the Brain Training Center. I would like us to continue our conversation about what brain training is about. Last week we talked about what brain training was, how it is done. We mentioned that brain training is nothing other than brain exercises. We would like to continue that conversation by saying that brain training is brain exercises that improves your cognitive skills and make cognitive skills more efficient, and to enable dyslexics to be able to read, write, and comprehend. So brain training is useful for that purpose. What does it take? We say that there are 7 cognitive skills that make up the brain, and that these 7 cognitive skills range from or are attention, processing speed, working memory, logic and reasoning, auditory processing, visual processing, and long-term memory. And that these 7 skills then do help to improve your knowledge bank to the point where the knowledge bank then becomes efficient and enables you to read fluently without difficulty over time. So the brain exercise that you're doing over time will result in the improvement in your cognitive skills that also would lead to an improvement in your ability to read, comprehend, spell, and write. So there's a close link between brain training and the improvement in the conditions of the dyslexic. So that's why we know that for you to do and move forward on it, you need to take the cognitive test. To start with, we do a cognitive test where we establish the strengths and weaknesses of your cognitive skills. Having established the strengths and weaknesses of your cognitive skills, we also do a dyslexic assessment. We assess your dyslexia condition, your condition. And I'm happy to say that at the moment, the Dyslexia Foundation has the only dyslexia assessment program in Nigeria. All over Nigeria, we are the only dyslexia assessment program. Most people whom we have met in the course of our work and have told us that they are dyslexic, they were discovered outside of Nigeria. To the glory of God, that assessment has now been brought to Nigeria by the Dyslexia Foundation, which is why you must come to the foundation and come to one of the centers to be able to do this assessment and establish whether you are dyslexic or not. So once you do the tests, both the dyslexia test and the cognitive test, you are able to eliminate all guesswork. Most parents have gone from one solution to the other, but they are never sure, never knowing what is responsible for their children's cognitive deficiency or their condition. Therefore, once you do this test, you are able to eliminate that. You also eliminate wasting money in wrong diagnosis. You avoid wasting time and effort in the wrong treatment. We met a parent in one of our centers in Lagos who had said, they've been to everywhere, including the US, but then they never knew that what the child simply was going through was dyslexia. So now the child is being trained for dyslexia, and in less than 3 months they can see significant improvements in this child's ability to read. So doing the test eliminates all waste of time and waste of money and wrong treatment choices. And it also provides a baseline to measure the strengths and weaknesses of your cognitive skill, because the first test you do actually provides a baseline. As you do the training over the years, over the months, then you can come back and do another assessment to find out what improvements have taken place. So this program, this training that we provide both for the Dyslexia Foundation and the Brain Training Centers, we are not a school, but we do provide an after-school program or during school hour program where students come to the center for just 5 hours a week. All we need from anyone who is interested in the program is 5 hours a week. You do 5 hours a week, Monday to Friday, 1 hour every day. You exercise your brain and go through the reading program or the spelling program or the comprehension program as well. And over time, that leads to that improvement. So you don't need to spend a whole term or more than as it's often the case, it's not an 8 to 5 program. It is just 1 hour a day that we need over a period of time. And of course, the duration of your program will depend on the strengths and the weaknesses of your cognitive skills and your initial ability to read, write, comprehend, and spell. That will determine the duration of your program. So if you do have any of these conditions, do come to the centers and we'll talk about that to you, and we would help you through. Now, what is it that who benefits from this? Who are the people who benefit? The dyslexia program is beneficial to anyone who is 4 years and above. So from 4 years and above to even 90 and 100, you are able to do the program. For preschool children, we use several methods. It's not Montessori. We are not using Montessori methods. We are brain trainers. We are jack of one trade and master of one, and that is training the brain. So we use our methods to train the brain. So if a child is 4 and is unable or beginning to show signs of dyslexia or cognitive challenges, please do bring them to the centers. We can work with them. So we work with preschool, we work with children in school, in primary and secondary school. We do work with them as well. We do work with also children who are in university, people in university, and we do work with also people in employment at any point in their career. Anyone who wants to become smarter can come to the center and become smarter. The brain training program, fortunately, is not only for people who have challenges. It is also for people who want to improve on their performance at work, performance at school, performance in anywhere. Because the more your brain is exercised and becomes much more efficient, the smarter you become. And the smarter you are, the more knowledgeable you become, the more looked for you are. So anyone who wants a competitive edge over his colleagues can come to the brain center and be helped in one way or the other. The brain training program is also been proved to be useful to people who have had a stroke. We have used brain exercises for post-stroke rehabilitation. Post-stroke rehabilitation. What does that mean? When you have had a stroke, and in a very simple format, from a very simple way of defining a stroke is a brain attack. When your brain has been attacked, then you have a stroke, either from too much blood being pumped into the brain or the brain being deprived of blood. In whichever way it is, the brain has been attacked. And when the brain is attacked, certain parts of the brain then lose their functionalities. For instance, the part that's responsible for speech. That is why you find that people who've had stroke often turn up with slow speech or sluggish speech, as it is called. People who have had a stroke often lose the use of one arm or one leg. People who had a stroke would often lose their memory as well. But through brain exercises done in our centers, we have been able to rehabilitate such people who have had stroke over time. We have also used brain training exercises for people who have had dementia and Alzheimer's, especially at the early stages of Alzheimer's. We've been able to use brain training to correct and to prevent full-blown Alzheimer's, moving from dementia to full-blown Alzheimer's. So brain training is useful for everyone. It is useful for sports people who want to be smarter, footballers, athletes, anybody can use brain training exercises as much as possible to improve and make themselves smarter. Brain training is also good for people before they retire. There's a theory that before you retire, at the age of 40 to 50, your brain skills start to diminish. They begin to look down. And they show a tendency that, especially logic and reasoning, processing speed, and working memory, they start to look downwards. They're starting to go down. But with brain training, you can loop your brain for another 20 to 40 years, in which case you can still be as smart as you were when you were 40 or 50, even after retirement, through the use of this program to exercise your brain and keep it very active and smart. So you can become smarter at any point in your career. Brain training is useful for everyone, and I'm encouraging you to please come and look out and see how these methods are used. What is the other thing we want to look at for? How does brain training then improve people with dyslexia? People with dyslexia, I've mentioned in our previous editions that they do have 3 characteristics that will make them benefit from brain training. One is that they have low memory. The second is that they have poor long-term memory. The third is that they lack attention and concentration. Brain training does address all these three. And so people with dyslexia who come to our centers are able, in a very short time, between 6 months, 9 months, or 1 year, they are able to improve on this condition. Because we are not a school, we do not have classrooms. Our processes and our approach is one-on-one based. We use one student to one trainer. And because there's a trainer and student relationship, we are working specifically to the needs of that child or that person in the center. So we don't group them in a classroom situation and then leave others behind. So we take on a one-on-one situation and process them and give them information and training that enables them to process to have skills that they can deal backwards in the class. And of course, as often we believe that when the people are trained in our centers and put in mainstream, not separated from the mainstream, then they do receive a better education in mainstream. We are advocates for mainstream in education, but we do also advocate that teachers and parents should play a role. Talking about teachers and parents, what's the role of teachers and parents in all of this? How can a parent who has a dyslexic child be of help? First, one of the things we notice is that parents are gradually not being involved with the education of their children. Why do I say that? Because the first sign you notice is that parents have delegated homework to either house helps, domestic helps, or to a lesson teacher, to the extent that parents do not even know the content of the homework that their children are given. They're not involved in their children's education. So when the child is reversing letters or the child is making the mistake, some of the examples I've given before, the parents are unable to know. And the teachers are very reluctant to tell parents, this is the situation your child is going through. And so the child continues to struggle in that situation for a longer time when it could have been helped earlier on. So the first thing I say to parents is be involved in your child's education. Try to find out what the homework is. Help the children to do their homework. That way you will know what they are struggling with and be able to provide them with support to overcome it. And if you cannot provide them with the support, of course, call in experts in these areas as the Dyslexia Foundation or the Brain Training Centers to be able to help you to provide that kind of support for them. Now, what other things should the parents be doing? Parents should take note that it is not right for them to call their children names when they do not perform to their expectation. I know that in Nigeria, every parent was the first in his class while he was in school. Why are the children not the first now? Don't forget, we say dyslexia is hereditary. It is genetic. So one of the things you must watch out for is that you probably have passed this characteristic or this learning disability to your child. So if you blame the child, if you beat up the child, if you abuse the child in the process of the child's performance, you might want to take a step back and look at what your own performance and your own behavior had been while you were at school. So parents should not call their children names. Encourage them. Incentivize them. Reward them for good performance. That way, even if their performance is not, even if they are not top of class, you will reward them. I had a parent in one of our centers in Abuja who bought his child a beautiful phone because he used to be last in class from JS1 to 3 until he got into SS1. He was always last in his class. But when the child came to the center and began the training program, in the second month of training, and they took their first term examination, he moved away from the back of the class. He beat 3 people. He left 3 people behind. And the father was so happy that he bought him the phone that he has always asked for. Yes, that's the way to go. Incentivize your children. Give them rewards for little performance improvements like that. Even when they come back and say, oh, today I got 8 over 10. Yes, give them a high five. Give them an incentive. Reward them. Give them commendation so that they can come back with better results. At the moment, most parents are not there. They don't even know what the children's results are like. They don't see them. They leave it to lesson teachers and to, of course, most men also leave it to their wives to look at. So please, husband and wife, get involved in your child's education. Once you get involved, then you'll be able to identify these signs and the symptoms we have mentioned, and you can then seek help before it becomes too late.